Justin Hansen was a great kid growing up. He was just a lot of fun. He loved animals and helping and taking care of things. All he ever wanted to do was help people. He was a positive kid. He saw the best in everybody and always wanted to have them move forward. As a firefighter, he enjoyed his job. He loved working in the fire service. He loved his friendship with all the other firefighters, the camaraderie and the time they spent together, and on shift and off shift when they would go hunting and fishing together. They just enjoyed each other, and they had a great time together.
Justin was really smart. He remembered facts about anything he ever read about guns and history. He read a lot of fantasy books. We were surprised to find after he died that he collected a huge amount of philosophy books from different, like the Dalai Lama, and just all sorts of different ideas on philosophy and the history of philosophy. And he just was a really interesting person who, if you were in a big group with him, he would not speak at all. He was silent. But if you could get him just one-on-one, he was just a treasure trove of really interesting things and exciting topics.
Yeah, he was, I think, often quiet and outside of, a small comfort zone, but also somebody that had really passionate interests, and when he discovered something that he cared about, he delved really deeply into it and liked the detail and understanding something.
He was it was the Matanuska Fire Department. Station 51 or 51 is the station that he was out of, and he loved to verbally spar with a few of the senior memberships, because he loved facts, and if you wanted to verbally spar with him on a one-on-one basis, you usually had to know your facts, because he was a bookworm and he loved reading, and he just knew he was right 99% of the time, and so he had fun with that, and he was just a big fun kid. The fire department made fun of him or kind of joked with him a little bit, because he would go work out in shorts with long wool socks and tennis shoes. He was just him. I mean, he didn't put on any facade for anybody. It's whatever he felt like doing is what he did, and he was just that way, and a lot of the kids or the people that he worked with joked with that. And I can remember one story they were talking about. They were out fishing on the river up in Alaska, and they were asking him, "Well, why are you barefoot?" And he just made the comment, "Well, I mean, that's getting back to earth, and you connect with the earth better that way." And he was out in the river walking barefoot in the cold weather, and they were just really surprised that, and it was just him, and they knew it was just his personality. He had a big personality that, but he was very shy. But once you got to know him, he was very outgoing once you made friends with him, and he had a lot of fun with the different pranks and jokes with the other firefighters, but he would help them with anything they ever had. I think there was one story out there that one of this up in Alaska, they have roadkill lists. If somebody hit a moose with their car, they don't want to waste all that meat, so they had a list, and you get on this list, and one of the fire captains he works with was on the list, and they called him up and said, you got an hour to come down here and pick all this up, and he was on duty, so he called Justin, and Justin said, "Oh yeah, I'll go over and get it for you and take it home and cut it up."
2 in the morning.
Yeah, 2 in the morning. He went over, drug it home, cut it all up for him, so they could have moose to share with their family. So he would go out of his way to help anybody. Justin became a firefighter because he moved to Alaska because his older brother lived there. His older brother was a MP for the Army up at the base, and so his brother, coaxed him into moving to Alaska. And while they were both up there, they thought, you know what, we ought to join the fire service together. So they went through the fire academy, him and his brother, and graduated through the fire academy, and were firefighters together. They worked side by side on a lot of their fires, and they had a lot of interesting stories to send back to Dad about all the fires they fought and all the training they had, and they really enjoyed what they were doing. And then my oldest son finally retired from the military, and he went back to school and changed his job, so he stopped the fire department because his new job required him too much time to do that. So Justin was just the only one working in the fire department, but Justin loved doing that. Justin went back to school himself and had just completed his degree in geology, so he was furthering his education and his broadening his scope or horizon or whatever, and he was moving forward with his life.
He really loved doing the fire department, but I know his long life goal in Alaska was to do geology and something with like the mining of the oil, those sorts of things. So he had just finished his bachelor's degree, and he had texted me just a few months before he passed away the degree that he had gotten, and he told me that he wanted to go back and get his master's because the jobs that he wanted, he would need that further degree. So he had his eyes on a lot of things, and then unfortunately was cut short.
His grandfather had also worked in mining and oil exploration, and I wondered if some of his passion and interest there was in some way connected to that. But I think he liked in some ways the challenge involved of the firefighting, like the way his fellow firefighters described him was the person they could depend on who would always be there to carry what needed to be carried, or some of the tough jobs that they often thought of as requiring more than one person. He just they'd turn around and find that he'd just done it. And
they said he never said no to things, that he would just do whatever job was needed. Nothing was below him. He just was a hard worker. Didn't mind getting his hands dirty and doing any job that needed to be done.
Yeah, he wasn't one to complain. I don't think, and was happy to do a hard job if it needed to be done.
He really liked the fire department up there in Alaska. Does a lot of service work, and he often talked about that sort of stuff, and I just found it really fulfilling to help other people.
The Wasilla Fire Department, when we got up there, was just absolutely amazing. They walked us through all the stuff. They had prepared a funeral service just for the department up there and for all the people and for the family. It was great. Fire Chief Keenan, and it was of great help, and all of the people up there, they just bent over backwards to accommodate us and help us in all that we did up there, and I was just amazed when they had the funeral service, and they had trucks from all over the state up there. And it was neat. It was really special.
When I think of Justin now, I think of his sense of humor. He kind of reminded me of Jim Carrey's version of the Grinch, just a little bit snarky, that sense of humor, but deep down really sweet, just like the Grinch was. I know he had a really close relationship with my brother's children while he was up there in Alaska, and I think about, you know, the things that he taught them, a lot about rocks, because he adored rocks, and about guns and fishing and hunting, and just that they'll miss him. Anytime I go to a museum, I think about the things that he would enjoy. So gun museums, it's hard not to think about him. We went to Washington, D.C.'s Rocky Museums, and he would have just loved to see the meteorites and the Natural History Museum. Just those were all the things that I imagine if he was with me, the facts that he would be telling me that he would just know off his brain and be able to recite. And those are the things I think about.
I met Justin when I started dating Mia, and my memory was of this, you know, big, strong former Marine sitting at the family computer, holding a Siamese cat in one arm. The cat was funny and would be very ferocious, but it was his cat, and he loved to, you know, tease it and get it all riled up. He brought home giant bags of Swedish fish and would set one out on the computer desk, and she would come up and lick it until all the details were gone from it. And a little red globby mess on the table. You know, it'd be funny because she would just come up to him and start meowing at him, and he'd scoop her up and hold her like a football, and she'd just chirp at him, and was so tickled that he would take care of her.
He did everything his way. He didn't, anything in his life was not to impress somebody else or to do something for somebody else. Or, I mean, he would do stuff for everybody else, but he never tried to impress anybody. If whatever he did, he wanted to do it the best to his ability, but he didn't care what the other people around him thought. You know, I mean, if him moving to Alaska or him being in the Marines, or, you know, once he decided what he wanted to do, he went full-hearted and just as fast forward as he could go. And it's an interesting thing to see somebody, you know, the rest of us usually hem-haw around and try to please others and everything else. He wasn't, you know, he wasn't in that mold. He was in his own mold, and what he wanted to be was what he was going to be. And he was going to be the best at whatever that was. And he always chose the direction that he wanted, and he didn't worry about the little things. He didn't worry about, you know, retirement plans or anything else. It's like he was a free soul.
Yeah.
He was a free spirit. He really did not have a retirement plan, so him nipping out a bit early, I guess, maybe was something that will save him stress later on, but I can't think of anything. He did have, I take comfort in knowing that Justin, you know, died after helping people, that he had answered several calls that night for help and taken care of a wildfire, and then passed away on his boat. He loved going boating, and just knowing that his sacrifice meant something, and that he would have been proud to know that he was helping people before, and I don't think he would have changed that. So
The thing that I think of most when I think about Justin is the idea of not judging a book by its cover. That he had, he could seem a little bit distant or standoffish, and it could be hard to get into that inner circle. And yet when we talk to the people that, you know, were part of his community. You know, the nieces that he took care of and the firefighters that he worked alongside, you could tell there was a really rich life and a lot of love and compassion that he had for those around him, that he wouldn't necessarily let it show a lot in, you know, traditional outgoing ways, but the way he spent his time and the ways that he would serve those around him spoke to the type of care that he had for the people that mattered to him.
Here's to you, with that smile on your face. Here's to you, and what I want to raise to this moment we share.